Action.
Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Yeah, well, I was going to say about another Alex on Tech and Tech Advice Live video, my little intro. And I'm here at the ASUS launch, and I'm here with Jazza. He is a prominent Australian content creator. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, what drew you to become a content creator?
Creating content. When I started, I was 11. YouTube didn't exist. I just found I could make my own world and stories. Computers were always the way that I did that. Obviously before that it was paper, but as soon as I had access to a computer, I was figuring out how to animate in Microsoft PowerPoint, and I discovered Macromedia Flash, and then one thing led to another, and by the time I was graduating high school, I taught my multimedia class basically because I did everything in my spare time. So I just developed a real passion for animation and game design. Rather than going on to university, I went on to keep making internet content, and I did that for 4 or 5 years until apps and the iPhone and all that sort of started to make Flash diminish, at which point I needed to find a pivot. I had been creating content just in a different way, and I saw YouTube was sort of up and coming, and I thought I'll give that a go, and it worked out, which I'm very thankful for.
So is it all videos, or are you still doing some animation?
Oh, it's a good question. I've done less over the years. I have always had a toe in it. So I've done lots of pieces of content with animation as theme. The biggest animation I did more recently was called The Tale Teller and was released, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. It took me 10 months to create. I think I did that because I wanted to scratch that itch one last time.
Yeah.
And I scratched it.
And that's it.
For now,
yeah.
I think I scratched my animation itch, but I can't scratch that content itch. I just love producing it.
I mean, the other form of animation that it's not animation, it's stop motion. You see it with like Shaun the Sheep and stuff. It's all very funny, but it must take a long time, all those.
Oh yeah, I'm not patient enough for that sort of thing.
What software did you use to do that animation 5 or 6 years ago, given that Flash is...
That was still Flash. It went on to become Animate, so I used Adobe Animate. I think Toon Boom and Harmony and all that stuff are a little more industry standard now. But Animate had progressed a lot by that point. But now it's the point where, like, if I open up Animate to use it, it's more different than I can pick up.
Yeah, you'd have to go through a course again to learn how to use it.
Whereas I'm very familiar with the content creation pipeline, so I've very much become that. But at the end of the day, like, the mediums have always just been the way I make something for people to enjoy. And I've never been married to animation in particular. It was just a way. It was the thing I had. Now I have video, and I just love performing and creating things.
So what sort of videos do you create, and what channels can we find you on, and what's the name of those channels?
It's a great question. I'll try and keep it brief because I take on too many projects, so I'm doing a lot. So my main channel is called Jazza, where I basically, it's fun with art and creativity. So I create all sorts of art projects, all sorts of weird and wonderful and ambitious. Sometimes they turn out awesome, sometimes they turn out stupid, and I love every single project. And then I have a handful of other channels that I produce. So there's Tabletop Time, which is miniatures, terrain, wargaming, battle reports, all that stuff. So anyone who's nerdy in the tabletop scene will enjoy that.
That's a bit like stop motion, isn't it?
Sort of. They're miniatures, so like tabletop wargame.
Yeah.
It's like Warhammer 40k, Dungeons and Dragons, that sort of thing.
But are you sort of locking the shot and then moving things around and then
it's much more about
again?
painting. It's much more about creating the scenes, dioramas, and it's a game as well. So people battle, basically. Tabletop Time Roleplay, which is an offshoot of that channel, which is where we play role-playing games like Critical Role plays D&D. There's Insert Art, which is an art channel with a whole team of artists, and we make all sorts of fun things there. And then I have a vlog channel, which is much more casual and relaxed and free-flowing.
And what is that channel's name?
It's called Jazza's Vlog, and it's my vlog, and I usually film in a way that I don't edit. On special occasions I edit. And it's a way for me to be way more directly interactive with my audience. On my main channel, with over 6 million subscribers, I have to be very conscious about holding people's attention and creating videos that get views and running a business and helping keep everyone I employ employed. The vlog channel is like, okay, sometimes it'll be a little more interesting, or there'll be an event or something cool. Sometimes it will be me showing off my new Smurf pajamas. Like, it's me.
Sometimes stream of consciousness.
It's really just, I get to relax.
And just in case people are wondering what you were pointing at, you're actually filming this as a video for your own channel as well, which is great.
You can do a lot with your phone. So,
absolutely.
This is a good case in point.
Now, you started working with ASUS. So when did you start working with them, and what sort of content do you create with them?
It's a great question. Over 4 years ago was actually when they were launching their Pro Duo lineup.
Yeah.
And I mentioned in my little presentation here that the first time I saw that dual display, I was like, okay, that's for me. That device is for me.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to receive and use each new iteration of the Pro Duo lineup, including the Zephyrus, which is their gaming, the ROG version.
Yeah.
And each newest version is my daily driver. I just love it. So I currently use the Pro 14 OLED.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's much more portable than its predecessors, but it has all that dual screen functionality that I love. But I'm also very, very excited because I'm going home with one of these. So I'm going to be doing a bit of a tech review of this on my channel. And what I love about this is it's so small and thin and light.
Yeah.
And as someone who runs around the studio and from home to the office and all of this, like to and from meetings, and also I'll need to just review content or even make quick edits. If I can just literally pull this out of my back pocket, it's incredible. So I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be cool when they can get a dual screen notebook on that. I know, right? One step at a time. They'll get there, yeah. They'll get there.
Yeah.
So what else impressed you about the other ASUS models we saw here today?
I am on the prosumer end of the lineup. I love that OLED or OLED.
Both. You can say both ways.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that OLED is more and more accessible because it is a very high impact technology. It's gorgeous to use. It's gorgeous to experience.
And it's coming down in the price point so that anybody can afford it just about.
Which is it, because my first impression of OLED was, wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's expensive.
Yeah.
So for the fact that now it's so affordable is awesome. But I love all the bells and whistles of all the big machines, and in fact this studio book, the ProArt Studio book here with the dial, we've received one of those as well, and it's one of our key editing machines in our studio. So like, make no mistake, like just because something has a small form factor doesn't mean it lacks grunt, and this keeps up with our big like tower PCs in our 5-channel editing pipeline. You can do a lot with a little, and ASUS does for sure.
So, technology is always evolving. How do you see that evolution over the next couple of years? What are you looking forward to seeing come to life, or playing with, or having come from the enterprise world to consumer land?
I have been following VR for a while, so I'm interested to see how the landscape shapes as Apple brings out their display.
I mean, we also have Samsung and Google, and of course we have MetaQuest Pro, and we have HTC Vive XR, I think, so the Apple one.
I've kept up with most releases, so I have, up until I didn't get the MetaQuest Pro, I have the Quest 2. And I think that's where I started to feel the diminishing returns a little bit. And I think now it's going to really kick up a little bit. In terms of highest impact soonest, actually though, I think artificial intelligence is coming like a freight train, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens everywhere. I've already seen a huge impact in the art space. It's already like AI in its different forms is already being utilized in our studio, and it's a very interesting beast, and there's a lot to learn, and it's moving quicker than you can keep up with. So.
I've seen people make AI movies with Midjourney and some other tools. Have you tried making any content with AI yet? Yeah, for sure. Well, I've done a bunch of videos on my main channel experimenting with AI to mixed reviews, because artists it's a confronting feeling. To see artificial intelligence produce genuinely impressive works of art evokes a response, and that's something I need to be careful about, because while I'm really interested in it, I also need to be sensitive to the feelings and thoughts and legitimate points of my viewers. So I've backed off of that a little bit as I take the time to understand it a little bit more fully, but at the same time, I'm an early adopter, and I'm genuinely excited by this technology. There are projects that I wouldn't have been able to afford to do that I'm able to start doing now. Like I'm producing a card game that I had no budget for. So like the first counter argument from artists is, well, artists aren't getting paid to do the work. My counterpoint is I
would never have paid an artist to produce this prototype because I wouldn't have had a budget for it. But if I can make this prototype, if I can make a legitimate product that actually comes to market, then all of a sudden I might create a company and create a path to employ more people. And so there's a counterbalance, but I can see the challenges.
Yeah. Well, there's a Not Joe Rogan podcast. It's made by an AI version of Joe Rogan interviewing AI versions of other people, which Joe Rogan has reportedly gone, "Whoa, that's amazing."
You know, I've heard the
fake AI voices
renditions
yeah.
of
I have
Frank Sinatra singing rap songs.
Yeah.
You know, it's
or Steve Jobs' voice, or I mean, we might have the Jazz AI channel.
Yeah, and
with an AI version of
course,
you.
of course, one feels conflicted.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
Identity is becoming this thing that can be controlled against people's awareness or say.
And we've seen movies about it. There was a movie with Johnny Depp called Transcendence, where he made an AI version of himself, and in the end, he went so crazy. I think they had to do an EMP, but he managed to survive in some Faraday cage as a droplet of AI or something. And I mean, sci-fi writers have gone crazy with all sorts of ideas long before AI was real.
It's not all that crazy now, is it?
No. And what's a memory you can share of your first computer?
So I don't know that my memory is good enough to tell you the specific first interactions, but my first fully engaging with interfacing with a computer was when we got a new one, which meant that the old one was fair game, and it was sort of put in the corner and no one cared what happened to it. So I was like, right. So I basically fresh installed and got to work trying to make my cool computer with the scraps. Try to install some old janky text-to-speech stuff and some really old janky floppy disk games and all this stuff. And I felt like a hacker. I was like, I'm a tech genius. It was bad, but it was, I have always genuinely loved the experience of making technology my own, the experience of creating through technology for as long as I can remember.
And do you remember the first piece of content, like the first video you would have seen? I know you said the first sort of semi-AI stuff would have been some of that text-to-speach, very early stuff, if you can even count that as kind of ultra-primitive AI, which you can't. But do you remember the first video you saw on a computer? I remember the first time I saw video was on those... it would have been cutscenes in games. Then it would have been like Man on the Moon on those Encarta and Britannica CDs. And then it would have been real video, like postage stamp when real video first came out, like 96 or something. So early stuff.
Yeah, I think I was 11-ish, 11 or 12. Yeah. And very much getting into art and doing little stick figure animations in the corner of textbooks at school. Yeah. And I came across this...
That's when you could flick the booklet and have them run. I remember doing that too.
And then I came across, I think it was stickdeath.com or something, and then sticksuicide.com, all these edgy stick figure murder-based websites. And I was like, oh my God, I have found my home. Like these... brutal animations of stick figures murdering each other, and I'm like, I couldn't pull my eyes away. And then I immediately, of course, had to learn how to animate stick figures so I could have them kill each other, which is, I guess, how my career started.
R-rated stick figures. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So my second last question is, what's some of the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today?
Okay. Got lots of little things. My art teacher once said, every painting goes through an ugly phase. That's something that's always come back to my mind. I've learnt, and my uncle said, always get everything in writing. And that is something I've learned the hard way, that I like to always say early as a piece of advice, because if you don't learn it, it hurts, and you have to learn it from your own experience. Yeah. But I don't know where it comes from. Maybe I invented it. But the phrase that matters most to me is when people ask me, what do I do if I want to be a YouTuber, which I get asked.
I was going to ask you, as another second last question, what advice do you have for people who want to become content creators? So that's where you were going.
Well, it's popular now. People want to do it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't when I started.
Yeah.
And it's popular for reasons because it looks like something. It looks like I want to be PewDiePie or get free stuff or whatever it is. But the reality is people who succeed in that world are genuinely passionate about what they create to the point where they would do it with no audience until the day they die. And that is that's me.
Yeah.
And that's my advice is like, don't get into it because you think it will go somewhere or because you want something specific. Do the thing you love most as much as you can, as if that's all there ever was left to do.
Because it's your passion.
Yeah.
If you're passionate about something, it's impossible to fake.
And if you find success, you'll find success doing the thing you want to keep doing. Because even that can be hard.
Yeah.
But it'll allow you to continue to add fuel to your own fire. I love being creative. I love being an idiot and interacting with people and challenging myself. And I get to do that every day.
So Jazza, what is your final message to the viewers and the readers of the article this video will be put into?
I'll subscribe to Alex. I mean, after all, like, what great
Alex on
content.
Tech. Alex on Tech.
Alex on Tech.
Yeah, and so it's YouTube.
Not just any Alex.
No, that's
it's Alex on Tech.
That's
it.
it.
And you know why you're here. You're here for the tech.
Absolutely.
You're here for Alex. So.
And your channel is youtube.com/Jazza.
Jazza is my main channel.
Jazza.
Yep.
And you've got links to all of your other channels there. Or if we just do a search for you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time. Really
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Really great.
Cheers, mate.
Okay. See
Take
ya.
care.